Back with us here on Business Prime Time, we're discussing fringe benefit tax and the changes the Finance Minister has made. How different are they from February to today? What has really changed? We have a special guest for you. With us is Mr. Ved Jain, who's been on the committee, a representative of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, on that committee on fringe benefit tax, which has brought about the changes. Thanks so much for being with us, Mr. Jain.
Thank you.
Good to have you. Well, the big key takeaway coming out of this is that the beneficiaries are IT and pharma, and we've discussed with several members of these two companies to get two sides of the corporate India. But what has not come forth very clearly is that, is there a big loser in this entire positioning?
Yes.
Who?
See, big gainers, there are IT sector is a gainer, pharmaceutical gainer. And if you make a comparison that who are the losers, if you make a comparison with the February, nobody is a loser. Because in February, the rates were high, 50%, 20%. And of course, expenditure incurred on telephone earlier was part of 10% only, now it will be 20%. So to that extent, when the expenditure is being incurred on telephone, it will go from 10 to 20%, but lease line expenditure will be excluded.
Right.
The other industry which is a gainer is aircraft, which is all airlines. Right. Now they have been taken out, or what repair and maintenance of aircraft, that has been also excluded. And particularly now construction companies, they are also gainers. In case the expenditure incurred on conveyance, motor car, etc., for them also it will be only 5% as against 50% and 20% earlier.
Right. Is there a fine print in this case that one needs to sit back and look at and read in between the lines? We've understood that the tax rate itself has been kept at 30%, no tinkering there. The liability has been changed.
No, see, there was no issue, I think, probably on the tax rate earlier also, because when you have identified that this is the amount of the income which need to be taxed, and when the general rate is 30% in the case of individual and HF, and now for corporate also, there was no issue that it has to be 30% only. The only debate was on what percentage of the expenditure can be rightly considered to be a fringe benefit which should be liable for taxation. Right. So the issue was whether it is 50%, 20%, 5% or 10%. And the second issue was whether presumptive taxation should be resorted to in these cases or not. The government has gone ahead with this. Yes, there should be a presumptive taxation. As against 50% certain expenditure marked earlier, now it have been reduced to 20%.
So what is the effective rate of taxation coming on to any corporate now who has to go through this? Let's say an IT company.
See, it will be very difficult to generalize it that way. Because depending upon the expenditure, there can be a case where you have an income of, say, 10 million rupees, but you are incurring an expenditure of 100 million rupees on one particular head of expenditure. Right. The increase may be substantial. But at the same time, the expenditure is nominal as compared to the income on that particular head. The
so
increase
where
may
does
be
this leave the Finance Minister and his calculations? He had looked at something that would turn him some amount of revenue from fringe benefit itself. But has he sort of watered it down so much? Will he really get much out of it? He claims that it's revenue neutral. Do you think so?
No, yes, I see the claim is revenue neutral from the angle that whatever is the legitimate income which is liable for taxation will now get taxed. It's a measure not to levy additional tax. It is a measure where the liability of the employee is being switched over to the employer. Right. Whatever was being paid by the employees now will be paid by the employer.
But does it add to the pocket of the government in any way?
It will add. It will, because the income which was being, I think, was not offered by the employee or was somewhere perquisite.
But not so much as it was in the case of February.
No, you see, the certain perquisites were being enjoyed in common and which were very difficult to identify with the employee. Now all will be clubbed together and the employer will be required to pay tax.
So the Finance Minister is sticking to his message about perquisites, but he's ensuring that there's some amount of relief to IT and pharma, the two big companies that are expected to ensure that outsourcing remains in place. Mr. Jain, good to have you in our studio. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Well, that's really...